That's Straight Facts on Friday. I'm joined by the Don Hussam. How are you, mate? You good? You well?
I'm good. I spoke to my lawyer pre the stream. I can confirm I am not charged with anything. I've got 0 charges on my name, so I'm safe. I know it's not the same for certain people, but big up to you guys. Big up to the Terrace audience. Make sure you guys are liking. Make sure you guys are subscribing. And yeah, Straight Facts on a Friday. Let's get this party started.
We have, because it's an interesting day today. As everybody has seen, Everton Football Club have been deducted 10 points. They are going to appeal this. And so far, I've read 3 different newspaper stories on this. And essentially, they've lost around £126 million. And that means they're in breach of FFP or financial sustainability laws within the Premier League. As far as I've read, Everton have not, it's not been because of offshore accounts, siphoning money, fake sponsors, paying agent fees away from the club or anything like this. It's purely been for Everton have overcommitted. They've overspent. They did not get the results they expected via that spending. They thought Europa League, Champions League, potentially they would gain bigger sponsors and then recoup that money. And essentially their plan has failed. They've lost £126 million and they've been deducted 10 points. So there's a fundamental difference between what's happened to them and what could potentially happen to Chelsea, who are currently under a thorough investigation for over a decade's worth of financial irregularities that they've reported for themselves. And of course, we know City have been charged with 115 individual charges. A lot of them are related to financial doping, potential fake sponsors, and also offshore accounts siphoning money. Therefore, circumventing losing money in the same way Everton have obviously been found guilty of today, or deducted points off today. And I think it's eye-opening for a German chicken when he says, Terry, you're talking bullshit. I'm not talking bullshit. Everything that Everton have done is what they've done.
Fans are just going to be triggered this whole
I'm saying this now. I'm going by a report that's come out today from my football financial expert, who states that if Chelsea and City are found guilty of their financial irregularities, the punishment could be more severe than Everton's, because it's multiple charges and it isn't breaching the FFP regulations about how much money you can lose. It's cheating to not breach them, which should be deemed as a much bigger crime, as it were. And his theory is, if Chelsea and City are found guilty, based on the precedent set of 10 points laid at Everton, City and Chelsea could potentially have such a large points deduction that it leads to them being relegated from the Premier League. And I wanted to get your take on this, because obviously we don't cover Everton per se because they're not a top 6 side, and that is what we focus on the terrace. But when you look at how they have been punished purely for making too big of losses, do you think it's plausible that the big boys like Chelsea and City, if found guilty in their tribunals or through their investigations, should face much heftier punishments than Everton?
Yes, they should face much heftier what's it called? Basically punishments than Everton. I think with Manchester City, listen, the City fans are going to get rattled. They're going to get triggered. That's their problem. Chicken wing is already triggered. All the City fans are going to be angry. This is the reality about their club. They spent money to get to their level. They spent money that they did not have, that they did not make, to get to the level that they got to. And we've explained this before in terms of financing in the Middle East, in terms of, kind of how things happen in the Gulf. The fact that there are no quote unquote private companies. There is no such thing as a private company. It's all owned by the government. So essentially, the football terrace is basically sponsoring the Terry restaurant and the Terry chocolate shop and the Terry this and the Terry that. And we can't keep sitting up here and acting like they're all different companies when they all have the same owner. The same owner is Terry Fluer. The same owner for Manchester City is the Abu Dhabi government. And this is the unfortunate reality for Manchester City fans. You can sit up here and you can cry all you want. The reality is the 115 charges, by the way, some of them are like the grass is too long. Some of them are not that deep. But when we're
Yes.
talking about the financial ones, when we're talking about the financial doping ones, when we're talking about the fake sponsors, when we're talking about mailboxes printing money, when we're talking about you're basically getting sponsored hundreds of millions by the same people that own the football club, it's essentially a breach. And it's just logically that's what it implies. With Chelsea, I think because essentially I think they're allowing basically the Premier League, it's open sourcing type of thing, because they're allowing the Premier League and the people who can actually give them punishments to get access to information. The punishment's going to be, I think, a bit than Manchester City. And the reality is, if Everton's punishment for this kind of like for this break of the rule is basically 10 points deduction, then what's 115 charges going to get? That's going to be that's absolutely insane.
It is, and we're going to come to City in a minute. I wanted to go to a comment that came through that says a breach is a breach. That isn't true football matters. So you've got to read into it. So again, new information may come out and it would change my mind. But on the 3 articles I've read regarding Everton's point deduction and their breach, they haven't cheated the system. So they haven't been caught, for instance, paying tens of millions of pounds a season to agents or to clubs via offshore businesses and bank accounts that circumvent their trading accounts at Everton. What they've essentially done is they've made a lot. They've made too many losses. They've made 120 over 3 years. They've lost 124 million, and that's too big a loss. They must be punished for it because under what they call the breaching profit and sustainability rules in the Premier League, they've lost too much money. So that isn't cheating. That's being run poorly. But they've lost it in an honest way, I suppose. Does that make sense? They've invested thinking that we'd yield better results, which would bring in more income, which would give us so we don't lose. It hasn't gone right. The situation with Chelsea and City is very different. They are accused of cheating. They are accused of bending the rules. They are accused of using payment mechanisms, and in City's case, potentially fake sponsorships to generate the income so they don't breach the profit and sustainability rules. So there's a fundamental difference between what happened to what Everton did versus what Chelsea are accused of and what Manchester City have been charged with as it stands. When it comes to Chelsea, though, again,
with Everton, sorry, I just want to say something
quickly
on the Everton thing, because as you said, sometimes we don't really cover the clubs that aren't really big six like that. With Everton, they only have themselves to blame, and I'll tell you why Everton only have themselves to blame. Transfer strategy, absolute. With all due respect, I'm going to say this: if there's an Everton fan watching, he'd probably agree with me if he just takes away the fact that I support Liverpool Football Club. The absolute worst transfer strategy in the Premier League out of any club in the last 10 years. The absolute worst by far. But essentially what Everton done is signing rejects from big clubs on high contracts. And you can, by the way, the list goes on and on and on. Michael Keane, Theo Walcott, their whole team is essentially a bunch of washed up rejects from the big six clubs on high wages. And also they paid hefty prices for so many of them. I think I swear they signed Iwobi for like 40 million. I could be mistaken. I think they signed Richarlison for 50 million from Watford. Like all the decisions that they made led into, without of course them getting Champions League football, without them winning trophies, without them being competitive, it led to that stage. So Everton have themselves to blame, because if you don't have a transfer strategy and you're kind of gung-ho all over the place, this is what happens. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the Everton side.
No, of course, and which is why it appears, and it's only how it appears, that potentially the Chelseas and the Cities have circumvented. So their way of spending is, well, we'll spend, but we'll do it in a way where, yes, we'll put the transfer fee through the club. But you know what? We've got 5 million here and 20 million here and 15 million there for agents. We're going to pay that. We'll get the owner to transfer that money when actually the money should come from the football club. Now, there's no legal charge here. They've not broken any laws, but it's about the rules of engagement surrounding how they play. But I think what you said earlier about Chelsea is very key. And this is where, again, I've read the article and actually put the article up on part of the article up here, as people can see. This comes from a legal expert, Stefan Brawson, who used to work, by the way, for Manchester City. So he has come out and said that Chelsea and City look set for relegation if found guilty of their FFP breaches. It warns financial advisor to the current champ. So this isn't coming from some Joe Nobody across social media. This is coming from somebody that's a legal expert, a financial expert who worked for Manchester City, that understands the inner goings on surrounding this. And the articles, there's multiple out there, well worth reading and delving into. But with Chelsea, the fundamental difference with them, where I don't think their punishment, I still think they're going to get a punishment. And I actually think they will end up getting a points deduction. I really do. The reason this is, I think Chelsea's new owners have found all of this. And there's an element of, we are better off, when we're already in the mire. They're better off reporting it now and taking their punishment now. Say it's 10 points, 15 points, 20-point deduction. They're probably not going to make the Champions League this season anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to win enough points to not get relegated, most likely. So they're probably thinking, if we take our punishment now, yes, we'll have another poor season coming stupid, 15th, 16th maybe because of a points deduction. But then it's done, it's out of the way, we go again next year. As opposed to you don't really want to be back in title races. And then suddenly you get a 20 points deduction.
Yeah, because Chelsea aren't really competing for anything this season.
No,
like Chelsea are just building. Chelsea got Pochettino. Me and you spoke about Pochettino from the summer. We said, look, it's essentially the right manager for this current time, the wrong fan base. Now, if this FFP breach happens and essentially they get charged this season, exactly what Terry just said. If they get charged this season, it wouldn't mean anything in terms of long-term future, because this season, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't mean anything. That's the thing. So in the grand scheme of things, the only small caveat I would question is, and I'm sure Terry's heard it before, did we not hear even from Chelsea fans that they need to apparently make Champions League football this season in order for
they kind of do and they don't, though, because they're just gone. I swear I've read their owners have just gone and got another £500 million of investment that's come into the football club. So I honestly think Chelsea are going to be okay in that regard. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's interesting though, because this week the additional stories about Chelsea came out, and these ones were because of leaks. And generally these leaks, by the way, same as Man City's, it isn't some geek hacker in his bedroom has hacked into their computer systems. The same as Man City's leak that revealed all their emails. It's an ex-employee that still had access to the emails. So you can call it a leak and make it sound like some conspiratorial movie, but it isn't. It's an ex-employee. If an employee of the current government brought you some emails from Boris Johnson that were really bad, we wouldn't all go, no, it can't be true. It's an illegal hacking. We don't want to hear about it. We'd go, it's an ex-employee. We know it's genuine. So it's funny, this week's stories about Chelsea that have come out are an external investigation that Chelsea didn't know about, or they're saying they didn't know about. My theory is Chelsea know that The Guardian and some international newspapers are investigating them for these breaches in history. And what Chelsea are doing is smart. They're getting ahead of the game. They're reporting themselves for things they've done wrong, and they're cooperating. They're giving the Premier League full access to their computer systems, emails, bank accounts. They're reporting themselves. And they're doing it because I think their theory is the Premier League have issued so many charges against City because Man City are not cooperating. Man City, and by the way, they've got a legal right not to cooperate. I'm not saying they have to. They've said, no, we're not giving you more access to our emails. We're not letting you go through and corroborate these stories. My view is, if you've got, this isn't a criminal matter, no one's going to prison. If you haven't done anything wrong and there's nothing to worry about, show the Premier League their fake emails, give them access to your servers, and then we'll know, right? Then you could have put this to bed years ago, but you haven't. So of course it's a different scenario. And I think Chelsea are being clever. They're going to work with the Premier League, and I think they'll get found guilty. I think they'll get a points deduction and a heavy fine, but I think it'll be reduced in some way, because one, although it's still Chelsea Football Club, it isn't the current people running it that have broke those laws and rules. Does that make sense? Plus they're cooperating, and like in any circumstance, whether it's civil, business related, corporate related, or criminally related, when you help, when you support the courts, when you support the governing body, when you support the authority, in this case, the Premier League, they always give you a lighter sentence. If you get arrested today because you've robbed the post office, but you admit your guilt, you put your hands up, you save the country the cost of a trial, you get less time in prison typically than someone that says not guilty, that doesn't cooperate, that says no comment in your interview. That's not me giving anybody any legal advice. Just do whatever you feel's best. I'm just saying you typically get a lesser punishment. So I think Chelsea are going to do it that way. But what I really see a lot of is, like, City fans get very triggered and very angry when these conversations come up. I do get it. I understand City fans are very, very fearful of being found guilty in this tribunal. I think they are very, very worried about how big a points deduction they could get, relegations, transfer restraints. There's all talk that they could get massive points reductions, be thrown out the Premier League. They could be banned from transfers for 2 or 3 years. They could even potentially have their title stripped. And if they don't have their title stripped, you know as well as I do, they're proven to have cheated and built this foundation of brilliance on cheating the system. It doesn't matter what they've achieved and won. Their fans can celebrate it. Their fans can still remember it and be joyous. But I think about 80% of their fans will go, it doesn't even feel like a trophy anymore because we cheated to get there. And I don't think football will recognize it. I think we'll all look at it and go, I don't even recognize that Champions League. I don't recognize that Premier League. I don't recognize that 100 points because you did it off the base of cheating. And I've always said all along, I get City fans' anger. I get their frustration. And I will genuinely feel sorry for City fans. The average City fan I feel sorry for because they haven't cheated. They haven't done anything wrong. They've just supported their club. I don't even think the managers and the players are aware of all of this. So I will feel sorry for Pep, having a huge part of his legacy taken away here. But when I look at Everton, who haven't cheated, they have just been run poorly and they've breached one of the rules. I've had a 10-point deduction. If Man City are found guilty, as far as I'm concerned, and this comment says here, if City only get a 30 points deduction, that would be an absolute piss take, would confirm it's rigged. I would look at it and say, if they've cheated to circumvent this and their punishment isn't exponentially worse than Everton's, then I do think there's a major problem here. The precedent that sets for me is we might as well all overspend. And instead of losing money like Everton, we might as well all cheat because one, we might not get caught. And two, if we do get caught, the punishment's less than actually just being poorly run anyway. So they cannot set a precedent that cheating gets you less of a punishment than making a mistake, being run poorly, or having a strategy that didn't work. Because when you're failing a strategy, like Everton have done, that's not done with any malice. That's not done with it's not done in a way where you're trying to hoodwink people. It's an honest mistake. When you go out of your way to cheat, that is a premeditated action. So the Premier League here, they have to make a stance. Otherwise, you are essentially saying you are setting a precedent and you are drawing a line in the ground, that says everyone can cheat. They have to be very careful.
Speaking of setting precedents, you touched on it now. The fact that Everton got a 10 points deduction for, as you just said, being run poorly, essentially. What did Everton do, ladies and gentlemen? Everton didn't cheat the system. Everton didn't fraudulently make sponsors. Everton just got it wrong on the football pitch. And because of them getting it wrong on the football pitch, they got done financially. Now, what Terry just said in terms of setting precedents, if you're going to give Everton a 10 points deduction for essentially, quote unquote, getting it wrong, then City, and listen, we all know, let's all cut the crap here. We all know they cheated. We all know that City, like this whole, the revenue lately for City, 750 million. Yeah, okay, bro. 750 million, my ass. Like, we all know that they cheated. We all know about their sponsors. We all know how essentially 5, 6, 7 of their sponsors are actually all owned by the same people that run their football club. We all know this. It's obvious for everyone to see. Just look at the name of their stadium. Just look at all of that stuff. All of these things, they matter. So now, from Manchester City's perspective, if Everton get a 10 points deduction, then Manchester City deserve much harsher punishment. They need to be stripped of their titles. Every single title that they won, they need to be stripped of. And I'm not even talking about to give it to the team in second place before anyone bitches and makes it about me. I'm not saying any of that anyway. But they need to get the Juve treatment, which is get stripped of your title. And I do expect a relegation as well. I expect a relegation as well, 100%. Because if you're giving me 10 points deducted for an Everton, we actually just made a mistake, then what should we give to Manchester City, who essentially cheated their way to the top? They fraudulently cheated their way to the top. People need to understand something. I'm from here. There's no such thing as private company over here. It's all owned by the same people. So I'm financing myself and I'm going to compete against someone. That's essentially what happened. It's like Trump running for presidency and he's just sponsoring himself, his own campaign. So that's basically what's happened. And for me, with Manchester City, I think they need to get charged. I think they need to strip to their titles. And it's 115 charges. Like, with all due respect, if you've been charged 115 charges, you know that they ain't all fake. You know that even if City bust case for like most of them, you still got 40, 50 cases. You got 30 cases. At the worst, 20 charges on your head, bro. So yeah, like it's gonna be a harsh punishment, as it should be.
It is very interesting because obviously there's a comment that came through here I want to read that says from Man City Recap, who says, yes, he's jealous. He can't wait for that day, but it won't come, mate. Sorry for what, Terry. You sound like you're already saying Man City are guilty. Well, I haven't said Man City are guilty. What I've stated is that they've been charged and we need to get... So Hassam's opinion, and he's allowed to have the opinion that he thinks they're guilty. In my personal opinion, I think they have done a bit of this. But listen to what I said the other day on my Chelsea video. I don't think they're the only ones. They're just the ones that have been caught because of a leak. I think a lot of big clubs probably do stuff like this. Because the feeling is that City, even if they've done these fake sponsors, paid additional salaries and bonuses via offshore mechanisms and not put it through the club so they don't break FFP regulations, they don't break profit and sustainability regulations. I don't think they're the only ones who have done it, which is my personal feeling. But I do believe it's happened. And why do I believe it's happened? Is because the emails that were leaked by an ex-employee. We've read the emails. And until I'm given an explanation as to what those emails mean, that changes my mind that they didn't have sponsors that I haven't read them for a while, but are worth 40 million, where the emails quite clearly state that if you pay 8 million of it, 9 million of it, 10 million of it, the owner will push the rest of the funds through to you. We've read them. And we know they've come from an ex-employee that used their login details and gave them to the journalists. So it's been verified that way. And I think for me, whether they get found guilty in the tribunal is another thing. But from my point of view, we've seen it with Chelsea's situation. And I'm going to be really blunt here with Chelsea fans. I know they won't want to hear this. Your own club has reported these financial irregularities. Like when I've had Chelsea fans come to me and say, how do you know that we've done this? Because your own club has reported that when you bought Willian and Etu, as an example, Etu was declared by your football club on your trading accounts as a free transfer. But it now turns out that offshore payments were made to that football club of around 30 million, I believe, which means you paid 30 million for him, but you not officially. So again, that means you had another 30 million pounds your club could spend on players. And then the new ones that have come out, which Chelsea have confirmed and are cooperating with, it's things like Eden Hazard. Eden Hazard wanted to join Arsenal. We've now found this out, but his agent vetoed it. What did his agent receive? Was an offshore payment of around 7 to 8 million pounds from one of Roman Abramovich's external companies. So it wasn't an agent fee paid by Chelsea, or I think Chelsea may have paid an agent fee. It was an additional fee paid. You look at the situation with Antonio Conte when you got him. One of Antonio Conte's closest kind of confidants received a massive multi-million pound payment from Chelsea the day before Conte had agreed to be the manager. Chelsea are reporting themselves for this. The fact that Chelsea are geeing themselves up tells me there is an element of truth here. Now, yes. What they have
they're turning themselves in, basically.
Yeah, and look, maybe some of these payments weren't directly football related. Maybe, and again, some of these offshore payments may not be football related. So maybe there is a case of, it's like the thing with Roberto Mancini. Roberto Mancini has stated that he wasn't paid any of his salary by Man City via offshore companies. What they're basically saying is he did some consultancy work or some training work for a day or two in Abu Dhabi and was paid separately and had nothing to do with City. Now, that could also be true, but remember, this isn't a court of law. This is basically it's a civil situation. You don't need to prove things beyond reasonable doubt. It's about looking at it again, do we believe that or not? Like, I've seen a lot of debates on TV recently. I see a lot of debates in the football world where people say things like, well, I didn't actually say the word you're using. It's like, yeah, brother, we're having a conversation. I understand what you're implying. You don't have to say something to mean something. You don't have to do something exact. You know, we can see through a lie. So
stop being a smart ass, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can sit there and say, how do you know these things are true? Because it's obvious that these things are true. You know, I think it is when City are grassing themselves up and when ex-employees of Man City are saying they've seen this. We've also had on the football terrace a man, Dr. Rob, who was employed by UEFA to investigate Man City and help them put their mechanisms in place for what went on. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, yeah, we investigated, we looked at it, we know it's all real. The problem is we couldn't find them guilty because it was time barred. But essentially, they found it. So, like, let's not bury our heads in the sand here. This comment here says, investing is cheating, apparently. Well, this is the thing, Han. Investing isn't cheating. but none of the accusations here. If you're circumventing, I understand that some people don't like FFP. They don't like the rules. They see it as a way of stopping owners like Man City's from spending whatever they want, and I can accept that argument. But Man City, along with every other club in the Premier League, every single season signs a charter to agree to abide by set strict rules. Now, once you've agreed to abide by them, the argument of our FFP is only here to stop people like Man City from becoming even bigger, it becomes an irrelevant argument. And it's not a justification for breaking the rules. They've agreed to the rules. They've agreed to the laws. If they have then gone and broken them, saying, well, they just want to invest is irrelevant. No one's saying they're doing anything that's immoral or sinister or evil, but they're just breaking the rules. It's as simple as that. The Premier League are essentially accusing the vice president of the UAE of fraud, but they're not accusing him of fraud.
Oh my God, Ammar, you're so dramatic.
My brother. They are not. This is not criminal based. There is nothing here that says that City have broken the law. They've broken the laws of football, but none of that is punishable. There's no theory of embezzlement or stealing. So they haven't accused him of that. Now the UK government will ensure City are found guilty. And maybe they will, but no one's accused anybody of fraud. This isn't fraud what they're doing. If there was no FFP regulations, etc., what City have done wouldn't be against the rules. It just is. It's against the rules of the game. This here says, Terry, we ain't going nowhere. And maybe you won't, brother. Now, listen, I don't think if you are found guilty, the Sheikh's good. It won't take you long. I think you'll get back up near the top. Because I actually do, where I disagree slightly with Hussam is I do actually think that a lot of City's income now in 2023 is legit because of what they've won and the fan base, I think, has grown internationally.
700 million?
Maybe. I mean, they won a treble last year. And that generates a lot of income and a lot of money, to be fair. It's got like 99 million from last year, winning a treble. I think that's fair. They also sell a lot of football players now as part of their mechanism. But I think how they started, there's definitely something that needs looking there. Liverpool cheated, hacking other clubs' databases.
Yeah, and we were found guilty and we paid the fine. Now what?
Exactly.
I don't know how every time I speak on the City fans just get rattled and they tell me, oh, you hacked City's database and the scouts and the Michael Edwards and the yeah, okay, we did, and we got found guilty and we paid the fine. Now what? I don't get how's that a comeback? Like you didn't debunk anything I said.
Absolutely. This here from German Chicken Wing, he says, all I'm hearing from you lots are ifs and maybes. Well, of course.
You want me to go to Man City's website, pull up the sponsors again right now? We could do it. You want to play this game, German Chicken Wing? I'll go on Manchester City global and regional partners right here. mancity.com. You want me to go there? I could go mancity.com right here. Etihad Airways, media experience, Abu Dhabi, Etisalat, which is the calling the calling service in Abu Dhabi, Emirates Palace. You could go down and down this list right now. It's a bit less than before, but if you go first, Abu Dhabi Bank right there. You know what's mad about all this? They're all owned by the same person, the UAE government, the Abu Dhabi government. Now what? Go ahead. Ifs and maybes. We're not. No one here is going based on ifs and maybes. Oh, guys, we think we cheated. Like we're going based off logical reasoning.
Yeah, and I think as well the if buts and maybes are coming from. Well, we've seen what Everton were fined for breaching the law, but doing it in an honest way. We expect if teams are found guilty of cheating for the punishment to be sizable. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. And again, I'm not talking. I'm just sat here today and I'm going to make a title up saying Chelsea and City to be relegated. You're talking here about a legal expert who worked for Man City believes this could be the case. To ignore that as a talking point is ridiculous. The amount of lies this stream needs to be clipped. There's no lie in an opinion. So Hassam's given his opinion. There's no lie there. Everything I've told you is documented on some of the biggest newspapers, some of the biggest journalists, and some of the biggest broadcasters in the world. Nothing I've told you is incorrect in terms of there being a story about it or an accusation about it or a charge or the evidence that those media companies have presented. What I have said to you is that they need a day in court, City. And if City are proven to be innocent, if Chelsea are proven to be innocent, I will accept that personally. Hassan may be different to me, and he isn't compelled to believe the same thing as me. So there's been no lies from my point of view told. Hassam's given his opinion based on what he's read and he's seen. And again, I'm pretty sure if Hassam sees new evidence to show City didn't cheat, He'll change his mind.
Yeah, possibly.
Possibly.
Unlikely, but possibly.
Being sponsored by related parties is allowed for F's sake. Okay.
Ammar, see, this is the problem. This is the problem. Keep the super set up on the screen for a second. This is the problem with you City fans. When we say something logical, you always, there's an Arabic saying, بقول له جمل بقول حلبوه. I cannot tell you I have a bison outside and you tell me milk the bison, because bisons can't be milked. You can only milk a cow. Stop changing the topic because of your copium. No one here is talking about related parties. We're saying it's the same owner. The owner of all these companies that I just stated out is the same owner of Manchester City, because private companies don't exist in the Gulf. Do you understand now? They're all owned by the royal family. It's all owned by the same people. Oh my God.
Also, being related sponsors, you're correct, my friend, is not against the laws. What is against the laws is the accusations that the emails from Man City servers have demonstrated. For instance, a company in the UAE sponsors Man City £30 million per year. But that company only sends them, and I'm giving you a hypothetical example here, 7 million a year. The remaining 23 million is sent via the sheikh into that company in the UAE, and then they send the money back on. So that way, the owner of the club is funding the company that's sponsoring him. That is what the irony is. If these emails were never exposed, there'd be no proof of this, because the Premier League has no power to ask for the bank accounts and the transactions happening in the UAE. But it's because an ex-employee leaked this information that there is a fervent belief that it's going on. And I always talk about this story. When Etihad Airlines sponsored Man City, this big sponsorship deal years back, I think it was like 09, 2010, around that time, where I was, the department I was working in at the bank, one of the old bankers who'd been there a long time, I understand things pretty well, because I don't even understand how this sponsor can even work. I was like, why? He went, look how much money they're giving City every year. I said, right, what's wrong with it? He went, they make a loss. They're an airline that makes a loss every year. They don't. Where are they getting this money from? And then these emails come out all these years later of essentially it being back funneled. So you're right. The cousin or a brother-in-law or a sister-in-law of a club owner, their business can sponsor your club. What they're not allowed to do is to pump money in through the back door. So they're using almost like a proxy to fund their club above the £100 million every 3 years that you're allowed to invest. That's what they're being accused of, my friend. So it isn't that they've got a related person as a sponsor. That isn't the accusation in any way, shape, or form. Terry, it's not a court, it's an inquiry. Yeah, listen, I might not get the phrasing right, so you've got me on that, but they will be, they have an inquest, and I'm just calling it a court. But yes, they'll have their inquest where the charges will be laid out bare, the evidence will be presented, and there'll be a panel of QCs that will make a decision as to whether or not the charges by the Premier League stand. And if they're upheld, then the Premier League will issue its punishment. And a lot of people are actually asking, why has Everton been done so quickly and this is dragging on? Well, because Everton haven't been accused of cheating. They've been accused of, well, not been accused, they've submitted their accounts and they've lost money. They can appeal the 10 points, but they haven't. This isn't, we haven't done. They're not being accused of something. They're denying. They're just saying the punishment's too high. So the fundamental difference between Everton's situation and City and Chelsea's, in my opinion, is that thorough investigation should be carried out on all top 6 clubs. We will all face charges. Rules are always there to be broken. Bro,
charges is absolute rubbish, by the way. Says who all will face charges? Because I know Man United make the revenue enough to spend money. I know we make the revenue enough to spend money. We don't even spend that much money to begin with. We all know good and damn well Spurs ain't spending no damn money. Maybe Arsenal under Arteta, last 2 years, Arsenal spend money. Don't try to group us all with the same thing just because you feel like you want to do this whole kumbaya thing. There's no kumbaya now. There's nothing that has nothing to do with me. I'm innocent. I don't know. I'm FSG out because we don't spend enough money talking about all this. Come
on. This here says leaked emails in Cass case were not evidence because UEFA lawyers could not prove their argument. UEFA was audited and cleared at Cass. You're waffling. So again, This is the thing for me though. I'm going by this point of view. Like I've said, you may be able to, in a court of law, in the court of arbitration for sport, disprove evidence by saying the way it was gained or time barring it or something along those lines. But when it comes down to, first of all, the Premier League is different. So there is, if the inquest into this upheld the Premier League's original decision, there is no recourse for this to be taken to the court of arbitration. So it cannot be taken to the court of arbitration, which is a much higher level of legal standing, I believe. So you won't have that same process. So if you weren't able to take the UEFA to the court of arbitration, the original verdict of guilty would have upstood. So if this inquest goes in favor of the Premier League, there is no process to go through that. However, like I've said before, I have read those emails. I know what they say. And from my point of view, I don't believe they are fake created documents. I don't believe that someone has sat there and created fake documents. I believe them to be real. That's my thought. And if there's proof that they're fake, and I mean this genuinely, send it to me. Show me they're fake. Show me they're not real emails from Man City, or give me a detailed explanation as to why I've misinterpreted them, and I will genuinely change my mind and fight City's corner. Because if people are making up fake emails or twisting the meaning of these emails to make City look bad, I'll stand by them. I'm a Man United fan, but I'll stand by them because I want the truth to come out. This isn't about a witch hunt. This is about the truth. So if you can show me that, IFL, brother, please send it to me and I'll change my mind. Thank you. Honestly, you two talk absolute shit every time someone responds to you on a waffle and backtracks. Then you are not owned by the same. They are not owned by the same person.
No. Sometimes I don't understand how many times I have to explain this 55. I genuinely don't understand how many times I can explain this. Good luck. I want you to travel to Abu Dhabi tomorrow, 55. Go and try start a private company. Come back and speak to me, and you'll actually get it. Guys, the in Abu Dhabi, the Abu Dhabi government, that's the same people that own Manchester City, okay? There is no such thing as private companies. All these things are owned by the government. That same government, Sheikh Mansour, owns Manchester City. So essentially, the government is sponsoring the government-owned club. You get it? That's basically what's happening. So you're getting sponsored by yourself, and yourself is giving yourself 100 million a year to go beat other players.
And that in itself isn't a problem as long as that company is sending its own money. So, for instance, if it's an airline and the airline is given 100 million pounds of its business's money, there's no problem. What can't happen is essentially Sheikh Mansour goes, right, sponsors 100 million a year. I'll give you 100 million at the start of the year, and then you just transfer that money into Man City's bank accounts. That's what they're not allowed to do. So the irony in it is you are allowed to do it the way City are doing it, as long as the money is legitimately coming from the sponsors. And all the emails and all the evidence says that isn't what's happening. So again, we're actually arguing over a point that isn't where the charges lie. There's companies that are sponsoring tens of millions of pounds to City that don't have websites, that don't have staff, that don't make products. And people are saying, well, who and what are these companies? Again, show us who these companies are, what they do, their products, their services, and how they can afford this. And nobody will think that you're cheating. It's not an irrational or poor question to ask, in my opinion. But as I say, if you can prove all these things, show me. People can give me abuse, they can call me pejoratives, but show me where I'm wrong, educate me, and I'll change my mind. City defeated UEFA. It's all in all 5 arguments in style. Yeah, a lot of it was time barred though, my friend. And they did. And this is the thing. The Premier League doesn't have a time bar rule. And if the time bar rule existed in the Premier League investigation, you'd win that as well. But that's winning it by default as far as I'm concerned. If you get off with a time bar, that isn't you beating case. That's a technicality. I don't care about anything but FFP. I don't care about anything but FFP because they signed off. City is a phenomenal team and Pep is great. However, if we lose, we would rather lose to City fair and square until there are questions.
I think with the whole Pep and Manchester City, look, what Pep and Manchester City have done on the football pitch is incredible. But at the same time, I'm not going to bypass the fact that Pep is called by so many football fans that don't support Manchester City or Barcelona a checkbook manager, because that's just, we all remember spending 200 million on fullbacks in the space of 12 months. So these things also, they do play a part. What if Pep Guardiola was in a position in which he was managing a different club and he signed Danilo for 50 million and then he couldn't sign another right back? What if the owner of said football club came back to him and said, no, you signed Danilo, hold that. Now what? You signed Mendy, hold that. That's another 50 million, that's 100 million. That's both your decisions. So this is the thing, like, we're also not going to sit up here and act like Pep Guardiola did not spend significantly above everyone else to get to this level and essentially have a 23-man squad.
Of
it's
course.
getting to the stage where it was so ridiculous 2 years ago, where no exaggeration, City's B team would have finished second, third, or fourth easily.
And for me, as I said all along, one of the people in this whole circumstance I feel for is Pep Guardiola. Because if it turns out that, by the way, the majority of this was before he arrived, that City have lied to him and built this foundation for this success to grow from, and they've done it via cheating the system, I feel sorry for Pep Guardiola. Because it doesn't matter whether a UEFA and the Premier League still recognize the achievements. Football, and I mean by that the fans, will not. Nobody will accept it. And that's the beauty of greatness. Whether it's the great Liverpool teams of the 70s, Fergie's teams, currently Pep's team as examples, Jose's Premier League teams, Jose's Porto's, you know, all these great teams, his Porto team, all these great teams that were created. What makes them great is through bated breath and gritted teeth, or when your rivals say, oh, they were so good, they were really good, though, weren't they? That's when you know you were something. That's when you know. But if everybody says don't care about them cheats, it loses its panache. If it doesn't register any emotional connection to your rivals, your achievements become obsolete, in my opinion. If suddenly no one cared about what Man United had done, it would bother me. And that is what will happen. So I look at it from the point of view, from a footballing standpoint, for Pep Guardiola's sake, and for a lot of Man City fans who I respect, I hope they haven't done this. I hope their club, because do you know what? We'll look at it as my club's been cheated and Liverpool have been cheated and Man United have been cheated. But the biggest people that would have been cheated are the damn fans and the players and manager. Your club would have cheated you out of genuine, bona fide, legitimate glory. And I feel for Man City fans if indeed this is true. Terry, only one argument was time barred, 5 were not. Okay, fair enough, my friend. And yeah, again, the court of arbitration, you won a lot of these battles, brilliant lawyers, etc. But you're not listening to my point. That won't happen this time round. There is no court of arbitration for sport to go to. So yeah, we will see. And like I said before, that doesn't explain to me, like I've said, what I need personally, and this is just to change my opinion for what it's worth. And obviously you respect my opinion. You watch every show, you super chat, and I really respect you for that. I need those emails explained. I don't want a technical lawyer term that stops them from being admissible as evidence. Because again, we've all watched enough real life court cases to see genuine evidence thrown out because of a mistake or because of a time issue or because of a date problem, or, you know, someone is, I watched a court case, like a show on a court case once. And because the prosecutors, they had like a date wrong. No, an address, sorry, was wrong on the court documents. They were thrown out of evidence, but it was one of the key pieces of evidence. That doesn't mean it wasn't real evidence. In a court of law, though, it has to be thrown out. But in reality, if you're sitting, that's why I never get juries. If you're sitting there as a juror and you're like, well, they can't use that evidence, but we know that evidence proves that he's guilty. How can I not mentally still find him guilty? I've never understood how the mind works that way, but there we go. This says, so this makes Klopp a 3 times Premier League champ.
Campione.
They won't. I don't think they'll strip titles irrespectively. And I don't, even if they did, I don't think they'd represent them. But yeah, there will. Do you know what's really mad about it? If they turn out to be guilty, there is an element of both them and Chelsea, by the way. Both Chelsea and City helped to raise standards in the Premier League. You know, United started it, Arsenal raised it, United raised it again, and then City and Chelsea came in and raised standards. If it turns out that all those standards were raised through cheating the system, there is an element that will make people think, God, all those days of being bantered for not being as good as them, and they weren't doing it legit. I mean, this must be how a lot of athletes feel when it turns out that, you know, the best boxer or the best runner was taking steroids for years. They must be like, so there was me being told I was rubbish because I wasn't as fast as Joe Bloggs, but Joe Bloggs was pumping himself full of juice. Let's have a little
You know
look
the
at some.
04-05 title, which Juve were found guilty of. We all know that. We all remember. By the way, for all the younger guys who don't remember this growing up, 04-05, Juve won the Serie A, and they were found guilty of the scandal, the refereeing scandal, in which they were influencing results for their games and other games. They got relegated to the second division, and their title got stripped. And if you go right now and Google the 04-05 champion, it will show up as Inter Milano, who finished in second place that season behind Juventus, but they ended up giving them the title, basically. So yeah, that's what happened. So it'll be very interesting. Look, if Manchester City gets stripped of their title, if Manchester City gets stripped of their titles, I actually read somewhere, I might be wrong, that it would still be Liverpool and Man United one title apart. You'd still be one title ahead.
Yeah, it wouldn't help. It wouldn't. But do you know what? This is the thing about it and why it has to be taken seriously is people have lost jobs. So you think about that Centurion season.
Oli would have been a Premier League champion.
Yeah, but if you go, yeah, that's the irony of it. If you also go back to that year, Jose, first season, wins 2 trophies. The next year, we actually didn't have a bad season. We had like 85 points and came second. But City won the league with like 100 points. But this is why it has to be taken seriously. And City fans won't like hearing this, but it's the fundamental truth. Because if they've created a base that's enabled them to get to 100 points, someone like Jose would have been, or could have been, and maybe would have been a Premier League winner with Manchester United. But because he couldn't win, he was so far behind City. That was one of the reasons why a lot of United fans turned on him. And that's why this has to be taken. I think this is why it is being taken seriously. And I think the same as Chelsea's situation. You have to look at these things in the way they do. Also, even when you do what Everton have done, you have to take it seriously and punish them, because if you're just allowed to overspend and break the laws, it impacts other teams. Because you think about Everton. Now, they stayed up a couple of years running. They just about stayed up. But the reason they're being deducted points is if they hadn't have overspent, they would definitely have gone down. Imagine they were not even very good. Imagine you take away like £100 million worth of their talent. They go down. So somebody else essentially has been relegated because they overspent. So you have to punish them. And there's always a knock-on effect when it comes to you cheating the system. You'll always take something from somebody else that they should have had. And that is why there must be. That's why I don't think it's wrong that Everton have been deducted 10 points. I've seen a lot of journalists say it. I've seen a lot of pundits say it. And I'm like, no, they've broken the rules of engagement. They knew what the laws were. They knew what the rules were. And they've gone against it. This notion that Everton should be given a free pass is crazy. Everton overspending has helped contribute to other teams going down. It absolutely
Everton
fundamentally
don't get
has.
the free pass, though. They just got a 10-point deduction. That's the thing. And that's why when you ask me about Everton, I kept it real and I said, look, if you've made a mistake that's led, okay, I'll use my club as an example, just so people don't get pissed off. If Liverpool spent 200 million in January, let's say Liverpool outright signed 3 players. They say we're going to win the league and we're going to spend 200 million in January. Come the end of the season, Liverpool have not won the Europa League, not won the FA Cup, finished 5th, finished 6th, and are not in Champions League football. If we get a points deduction or we get charged, they have every right to do that. Everton made a mistake. Everton made the wrong footballing decisions on the football pitch. And 100% Terry's right. It affects everyone else. The problem is the knock-on effect. Because now, Norwich, who got relegated, other clubs who got relegated back then are going to go like, wait a minute. So all we had to do was just cheat the system and we would have had just a points deduction 3 years later.
Exactly. And this is the thing with it. You cheat the system, build a better squad, and then grow from that point. Even a 10-point deduction in 2 or 3 years' time could be better than you getting relegated originally. So there has to be big punishment for this. There's a comment here. We'll do some more of these super chats, but this here from Twisted Bubba about what I said about Jose says, Terry, United spent as much as City. Your argument is flawed. Well, it isn't flawed. Again, you have to go into more detail. So United haven't spent their money particularly well, and we know this, but that is a separate argument. Man City, whether they've cheated or not, they run their club impeccably, and they're a better run club than Man United from a day-to-day practice point of view. But if it's proven that from when FFP and all the regulations came in, up until that season where they beat Jose to the Premier League, that they've been signing players that without circumventing the system, they wouldn't have been able to afford, they wouldn't have had that team and that squad. So irrespective of how poor Man United have spent their money, City may not have had that squad. In fact, they wouldn't have had that squad if the accusations against them, the charges against them are proven. So Man United spending money is an irrelevance because we know what Man United were. They got about 85 points that year, which isn't too far away from being able to. And by the way, I think we got beat twice that season by Man City. If City weren't as good, maybe we beat them once. Suddenly we're on 88 points. That's a pretty good total to win Premier Leagues. A lot of teams have won Premier Leagues on that amount of points. So yes, to say it's flawed is wrong. You're right if we're going to look at a very basic level. Man United spent as much, therefore it doesn't matter. But this is why you have to look at these things deeply. Let's have a little look
at the same
here.
time, Man United, from a business perspective and from a marketing perspective, they were levels above every single Premier League club for the first 20 years of the Premier League era.
Yeah.
No, without any doubt. And I'm saying this in terms of like fans in East Asia. I'm talking about fans all over the world, the places that they used to travel to, their marketing, their sponsors. From a marketing perspective, Man United were the smartest club in the 90s and the early 2000s. And that's what allows them to make this much revenue, even when they are fucking shit. Because they have fans all over the world. That's the thing. That's the difference between the clubs have established themselves from a marketing perspective. That's why even me, someone who's FSG out, I always give credit to FSG for what? For talking, for fixing the marketing side. And the fact that the marketing side and the business side and the monetary side, Liverpool Football Club are now making money, that shows that we've covered some ground in terms of that. However, even with Liverpool's success recently under Klopp, I'm still humble enough to sit back and go like, Man United make more money, because this is just like, it's not going to undo 30 years worth of work from a marketing perspective to just undo it once. That's not how life works. So yeah, that's why it's different. You know, Man City were not known around the world. Look at what Pep Guardiola said, your own manager. He said he'll forever be a failure because Julia Roberts came to Manchester and went to see Man United in 8th place instead of seeing Manchester City who are champions. So hold that.
German Chicken Wing here says, today's news is about Everton, but let's talk about City for more than an hour. Well, we spoke about Chelsea as well, and we spoke about Everton in this time. But of course, we're going to speak about it because it's what's trending. That's what fans are talking about, and that's what fan channels do. You all want City relegated so your foul clubs could win the league. I don't want City relegated if they've done nothing wrong. But if City have cheated, if City have financially doped, if City have broken the rules, that others have stayed within, because we could have all done that. It's how we theoretically all of our clubs could have done it and been able to spend. Like Man United, if it turns out all these things are true, what City have done, if Man United would have done the same thing, we could have spent even more than you, which might have if we could actually spend genuinely more than you by an exponential amount of ways, we might have been able to keep up with you a little bit more. But the point is this: I don't want you guys getting in trouble if you've done nothing wrong, but if you've cheated, absolutely. Because you being so much better than everybody, if you've done it through ill-gotten gains, from a point of view of perspective, you make everybody else's clubs look worse than they maybe really are. You really do. If City are found guilty, the responsibility and respect thing is to strip and relegate. You can't cheat to win, is what Ray says here. Sorry, if Oil City cheated, then Arsenal should be given their robbed title from last year. Corruption just destroys sport.
We're all lining up. Let's go. We're all Premier League champions. Congratulations, Arteta. Congratulations, Klopp. Congratulations, Jose. Congratulations, Oli. Hey, listen, we all get the title apiece. You know, we all happy.
Do you know what's really fun? Do you know what's really funny about this, though? Is I've known people that don't like Jose defend City. They're United fans, but they're like, no, FFP's a joke. Arsenal fans who hate Arteta, they're like, no, FFP's a joke. Because what they're desperate to not happen is for City to get in trouble, have things stripped or relegations and everything else. And then they realize, damn, those managers who are hated on for not being able to win should have won or could have won, right? That's what they don't want. They're actually panicking. It's like, oh no, because that blows up their entire art. Some of them have made a living for the last 6 or 7 years off of hate. Originally started off by hating on Jose. Everything's gone if that happens. And I do get it. It does make me laugh. It's so funny.
Speaking of straight facts, can you imagine League Honor if you tell him Arteta has a title? No?
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Do you know what I would do? Honestly, I'd pay for this because it'd be a laugh, right? Say City. I know City fans will hate me saying this, but it's hypothetical. It's a bit of a laugh. City gets stripped. And everyone who's owed a Premier League in the last decade gets to have their own ceremony. I would pay money, good money, to have Lee Gunner hand the trophy to Arteta. I'd love it, bro.
What an idea right there. Oh my God.
Love it.
Lee
Yeah,
Gunner's gonna be For the first time ever, it's gonna be system error 404. He wouldn't know
Yeah,
what to
you know,
say. Like, shit,
you get
what can
Lee
I
Gunner
say?
has to give it to him. In the Man United fan base, it'd be someone like, you know, that Mike Love United Hate Glazers, right? He's such a funny troll. He's hilarious. I'd get him. He'd have to hand it to Ollie as an example. I'd have to find who hated Jose. Who really hated Jose? Rants. I love you, bro, but I'd get Rants. Give it to Jose. People would have just hated on these guys. I'd love. It'd be so funny, man. It'd be so funny. The Premier League is not accusing City of cheating. More waffle. What are they? What are they accused? That's fine. So what are they? Again, you're right. I don't think the Premier League in any document has said they cheated. But what are they implying? Come on now, my friend. Let's stop playing semantics here. So if Barca are guilty, then Arsenal will have a Champions League. I've only read the story once about Barca. I swear it's only La Liga referees they were paying. I swear. So yeah, not quite, as far as I can understand. Terry, remember Hussam? His Premier League has an asterisk. Oh yeah, because of COVID.
That's crazy. You know why I felt that's crazy from you as a City fan? Because you actually won the COVID Premier League. 2020, 2021, there was no fan in any stadium from August till May. I saw for 30 games out of 38 fans in the stadiums. And I'll add furthermore, let me make it even more painful for you. If Liverpool Football Club didn't play a single game post-COVID break, they still would have been Premier League champions. So, yeah.
I'm not even joking, though. When there was talk originally at the beginning of all of that, they were going to, you know, like the Eredivisie, they scrapped it, nobody won it. I was like, it was correct. If you guys weren't as clear as you were, I reckon they'd have scrapped it. Yes. It was only because you guys were so far ahead, they just probably couldn't do it. Let's be honest, City fans, you guys cheated, is what Marshall D. Teach says here. Luke says, think about the teams that were relegated as well. It opens a whole can of worms. It certainly does. And the thing is with Everton, is that that's why they have to be punished. This idea, I saw Gary Lineker's tweet today, it's excessive. Excessive based on what? Excessive based on what? They've broken the rules. They must be punished. Do Hassan versus Big Steve debate 1 hour special like Mohammed, Hijab and Rabbi. Listen, do you know I wouldn't do that? I actually watched that debate for the first 20 minutes. I couldn't watch it. Do you know, both just shouting over each other. And I was like, I like listening to some of those debates. I've listened to a lot of them, not so much Piers Morgan's, but a lot of them in the last few weeks to try and educate myself on that situation. So no, I wouldn't want it to be like, it's too shouty, too much. But yeah, I don't know if Big Steve will appear with Hussam again. I'll put it bluntly. Liverpool literally admitted tapping up VVD, but hey, Liverpool is clear and pure. Stop pretending any of the top 6 teams are spotless. Hypocrisy stinks. Guess remove all titles from Liverpool with VVD. Lol.
Danny, here's the thing. See the difference between me and you? I'm not a you know what, like the Man City fans in the chat today. I've already admitted it. The difference between you know what would make your life so much easier? Just own it. I admitted it. Yeah, Liverpool cheated. We got charged. We got convicted. We paid the fine. And yeah, Virgil van Dijk was supposed to join us in the summer. We apologized. We made a public statement and we signed him in January. Now what? Like, I don't think, once again, that doesn't rebuttal anything I've said about your football club. And we were supposed to sign Van Dijk in the summer. We made a public statement and apology. We signed him in January. That's it. You're comparing that to cooking up the books to £700 million a year and all the expenditure you've had. Imagine if I gave Klopp Pep money. You wouldn't have sniffed the league title. Sit on the ground, brother.
I think you've got to look at it from this point of view. Like Liverpool got caught cheating. They got their punishment for it.
Exactly.
But then
we paid it.
It's done. This here says, as a member of the Premier League, how can City refuse to disclose information? What are the league league membership rules? So yeah, look, there is no. My understanding is there is no obligation for any Premier League club to allow the Premier League's officials to essentially have access to your computer servers, your financials, because there's no regulator of the Premier League. So there is no. That's what they need to now appoint, in my opinion, is a regulator, just like the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK, that could essentially turn up at any bank, any financial institute in the UK at any moment and say, we want access to everything, and they have to give them access. That's how you stop this going on in the future. But they don't have to disclose. But the problem you have is this. Because it isn't going to a court of law, because this is not a criminal offense, things do not have to be proven beyond reasonable doubt. Similar to employment. So whenever you're in an employee tribunal, you can turn around and go, we're not 100% sure if Flossie stole that item, but we really believe that Flossie did, and they can still make a decision to sack somebody without 100% cast iron proof. So because it's a civil matter, and this is the way this is. If the Premier League turn around and say, look, we've got all this evidence that City have done all these things, and City turn around and go, well, we're just not going to disclose it all, the QCs on the inquiry might side with City and say, well, you can't prove it categorically, so we're siding with City. They might turn around and go, the fact that City are saying they didn't do it but don't want to give you access, they might turn around and go, oh, we believe the Premier League, you guys are being too, especially when there's a precedent maybe being set by Chelsea saying, come in, come and see it all. So it can go either way, but there is no rule that states they have to disclose all their information, essentially, is what I've read in a number of these reports. As a United fan, there is part of me that feels sorry for the real Man City fans way before 2008, but not any glory hunter or arrogant prick like Hamza. Nah, he's not a prick. Hamza's not a prick. I will say he's a nice lad. He really is a nice lad. But listen, we know what happens. If they do get put down to League One or something, then Hamza just becomes a Chelsea fan or an Arsenal fan again. That's what he'll do. By the way, if they got, listen, this won't happen, but if they got properly done and were finished, and then the Sheikh sells, they're finished. What you'll find is certain City fans like Hamza, who I like Hamza, but I genuinely don't believe as a younger man he supported City. I do not believe it for love nor money. You'll just see him go back to the team he used to support, but he'll basically say, I got cheated on so hard, I had to leave, and I still love football, so I'm picking this team. I guarantee you that's what will happen. Mansour owns both City and Etihad Airways. When United or Liverpool get a new sponsor deal overthink a deal. Sorry, let me read that again. Mansour owns both City and Etihad Airways. When United or Liverpool got a new sponsor deal, ever think of the deal, who match and how long it will run, and have to go the same information both City sponsors?
I get what Tina's saying. Essentially, so basically what I think that's a she. Big up Tina.
Most Tinas are women.
Yes, I think it's a she, but I think that it's Norwegian, so it might be a he in Norwegian.
Could be. Yes, any Tinas out there, or geezers, let us know.
Big up Tinas, all the Tinas in the chat. The thing is, essentially, if I'm giving the Liverpool example, it's like the Boston Red Sox sponsoring a Liverpool Football Club when they're both owned by the same person. Tina's basically agreeing with what I'm saying regarding the same owners, and that's the biggest problem in this whole conversation for me personally. And of course, we're seeing all the reports that are coming out and stuff like that. Big up Tina.
Thank you, Tina. Created by the poor, stolen by the rich. City, PSG are cancer. Oh, Jesus. All right, that's a bit strong. No. It's a little strong. If City are found guilty, then I want our Champions League in Porto. I am shameless. You can have it. Yeah. And then you have to give it back when you're found guilty. But equally, but there's a truth to that.
So what happens that year then? Because Chelsea and City are both guilty. If they're both guilty, then what?
Yeah. The thing is, I don't think you can give it. I understand the league title. You could give it to the team that comes second. But when it comes to the cups, you can't award it to anybody because, yes, they beat a team in the final. But then what about the teams you knocked out on the way? Does that make sense? Because
who was the semi-finalist that year? It was Bayern and no, it wasn't Real Madrid. It was Bayern and Lyon. I can't remember
who it was.
Bayern and Lyon.
No, Lyon knocked City out the year before that. I don't remember who the semi-finals were. Who did they? I can't remember. Chelsea
knocked out Madrid, Atletico, either Madrid or Atletico. Who did City knock out?
PSG. Yeah.
So now they have a PSG Atletico final.
Yeah. We'll do that in the summer, right? We'll get it done. This here says one thing that has been exposed is that Arsenal fans have been lying when they says Alexis over Hazard, because now they say they were robbed of the Premier League window. Yeah, they have exposed them. You are right on that, because again, people always eventually, if they'll always show their bum when they have an agenda, as opposed to believing what it is that they say. Because listen, it just is what it is. Yeah, you're right. I agree. The Premier League has set a precedent now with Everton. They have to hit Chelsea hard if guilty.
Big up Dean.
Yeah,
Big
Dean,
up
if they
Dean.
are guilty, then they have to hit them very, very hard. You're bang
This
on.
is the problem. This is the problem, Terry. Now, because they've done this to Everton. Okay, you done this to Everton. They're found guilty. No problem. Okay, no problem. We all say they made a mistake. They're guilty. But now, if City are found guilty of even, I'm gonna say, you know what? Out of the 115 charges, they're only guilty of 15, or even they're only guilty of 5. They're only guilty of 10, whatever. Then what does the punishment become then? Or on a real, what does the punishment become? Because of one charge is 10 points, then what? Are you going to deduct 150 points from Manchester City? Like, what exactly is going to happen? That's the problem.
No, I agree. Ask you this, then say City is innocent. Will you apologize? And second, what punishment will the Prem face for lying? Well, that's a really good question. So if the Premier League are proven to be liars, it would mean that everything that they've charged City with would have to be a complete fabrication or a lie. So, for instance, the grass wasn't too long when they said that it was. The Premier League would have to be found guilty of creating those leaked emails, as an example. So you're never going to get to that point. If it turns out that City are completely innocent, these emails are lies, these emails are fakes, there is no empirical evidence, physical evidence, nothing that supports any of these claims, and it's all out there, then I'll say, there we go. And I'll give you an example of that, where it's a very emotive example. For 20 plus years, there was always debate and conjecture over what really happened at Hillsborough. Now, I wasn't really making content when the news broke and through all the tribunals, and it was ruled that, because initially it was ruled that the fans were the cause of it by being drunk and disorderly and overcrowding the stadium. That was overturned. When it was overturned and all the documents were released, I watched a number of TV shows, listened to a number of radio shows that explained this in great detail. And I was never somebody that was horrible about what had happened, but I had the stance of, well, it was very sad, but it was created because of this, because that's what the official documentation said. As soon as we were all told the truth and it was all completely and utterly revealed, a lot of people changed their minds. Now, my mind was changed many years before that, because I've got family members that are Liverpool fans, and as I got older, they explained what really had happened. But the point is that more and more people in the general public changed their opinion about that situation because the evidence came to light. So yes, from my point of view, if it's proven that they're innocent and they've done nothing wrong and that's shown to us, then I'll believe it. However, if there's no new evidence shown, it's just, well, the courts decide they couldn't decide, so they've gone in City's favor, or they couldn't prove it. I've still seen what I've seen. You've got to prove that those emails aren't real. You've got to prove and show what they mean. So yeah, 110%. I'll always change my mind if I'm shown new evidence. I don't have an outright agenda. You know, I have no outright agenda. And it's as simple as that. I remember being a kid. I remember talking about the Hillsborough thing with one of my older cousins who's a Liverpool fan. And I remember just saying to him, like, yeah, but not you guys. I didn't say it in that way. It was just sort of like, I understand it's sad, but that's why fans shouldn't do this and fans shouldn't do that. And he said, but it wasn't the fans. He broke down all the reasons it was. And I was like, oh, wow, I respect you and my cousin. I'm going to listen to you. And I always sort of took that stance. But most people that I ever spoke to about it were like, well, how can your mind change? I'm like, well, my mind changed because someone I trust has told me something. And then when it all came out and it was like official, I was talking to a lot of people and I said, I told you this is what was being said. But a lot of people just go with what the official sort of word on the situation is. Does that make sense? And I understand that, because with all due respect, it's a hard thing. You can't research everything that's ever happened in life. You can't do, you just don't have the time of the day to do that. So you often go, well, the history books say this, or, you know, I read something on a website, or I watched an in-depth documentary about it, or I listened to a podcast about it. And that's kind of what my beliefs surrounds around. But I'm always someone, if I believe something and somebody in a credible way provides me with new evidence or a new way of thinking, I'll change my mind. I've done it for years. The irony is I get called a flip-flop for doing that. And then I get told that I don't do it. So yeah, it's a real important one for me. It really is, for people to do that. Let's do some more of these super chats here. Most current City fans don't even know who Sylvain Distin, Robbie Fowler, and Steve McManaman played for City. I don't know about that. I don't know about that, Wayne.
Stephen Ireland, Sean Goater, Richard Dunn. I can Ilano, Joe, Benjani. I could name more City. I promise you, I could name more City players from the past. Petrov played for them as well. So many. Robinho, when he thought he was going to go to Man United. It's crazy.
This year says, I'm a Chelsea fan, not City, Hussam. My point was everyone cheats. No one is clean. Everyone pays agents and similar things. Either all okay or none.
Yeah, but this is your problem right now. You're equating all crimes to each other in the super chat. Me punching Terry in the face is not the same as KJ taking a gun and shooting me. Those are two different things. One is called battery, the other is called murder. So what you need to understand is, if I got a USB from Manchester City to hack a scouting system, that's not the same as financial doping, which is not the same as having too much grass, which is not the same as this, which is not the same as that. You cannot equate things and just say everyone cheats. Yeah, but there's differences in cheating, and it's a spectrum. And if you're sponsoring yourself and you're cheating in the transfer market, that's the highest way and the biggest crime in terms of cheating, because you're essentially getting back payments from the back door. So it's different.
Yeah. Also, there's nothing wrong with paying agents, but it has to go through the club. So if Man United pay an agent £20 million and Chelsea pay an agent £20 million, but we do ours for our club's accounts, and yours is done from an offshore company that your owner owns, you've broken the rules. Man United haven't. So it's not that you're paying an agent, it's how and where the money is coming from that needs to be focused on, my friend. And again, when it comes to Chelsea, your own club has been the ones that have reported all of this. This isn't a leak from an ex-employee. This is literally Todd Bowley saying, yo, this looks dodgy, come have a look, please. Aren't some of the charges due to not cooperating? Yes, some of them absolutely are for not cooperating with them as well. And that's where this is going to be a very interesting situation when it comes to the I won't call it the courtroom because people get annoyed. The inquest is, if they're found guilty, they're going to be punished additionally because they haven't cooperated, which is why I think Chelsea are doing it the way around they're doing it. So it's going to be intriguing to see which way this goes. And if City end up winning, then Chelsea are going to feel really stupid for cooperating. Like, it could go either way, couldn't it? Yeah. Nothing is going to happen to Chelsea or City. Otherwise, they will break away to the Super League, and all your big clubs will follow if they do that.
I saw so many people saying this today. You need to understand, after what happened in the first thing with the Super League, after what happened the first time with the Super League, apparently the Premier League owners signed something to not have this situation happen again, essentially. And starting next season, the Champions League is going to give clubs a lot more money than it used to give them. So yeah, it's I don't think
the Super League's happening. No, I don't. But I understand why you'd say that. Klopp with Pep money would be nothing. Would do nothing. Stop. I saw John flipping stones play Cruz and Luca off the park under Pep. Pep is so clear. Goat.
That's my response. Yeah, that's my response to his super chat.
Come on.
I signed in Klopp's entire time. He signed 2 players worth more than 60 million, and that's Alisson and Van Dijk. One of them won the Lev Yashin award. The other guy almost won the Ballon d'Or.
No, Nunez is more than that.
No, I'm saying when we were competing.
Oh, right. When he was right, yeah. This here says different punishment for different rules broken, and to what extent they are broken. So difficult to compare to Everton's case. That's a fair point.
Everton, and by the way, Terry said this at the start. Everton just made a genuine mistake and got their thing wrong. This is the thing. Everton made mistakes on the football pitch, whether it be managerial mistakes, aka hiring Frank Lampard. Would it be certain transfers, the signing of Walcott, the signing of Iwobi, the signing of Richarlison, whoever? These are mistakes that they done financially, and they have not got the results that they need to get. So these are 2 different things. So I agree with you. I think you're completely spot on, Gav. It's completely different.
No, again, and Gav, if it turns out that City are only guilty of 4 or 5 of these charges, and they're really small things, and their punishment shouldn't be as high as Everton's. And remember, we only know about the things that have already been leaked because they were connected to the UEFA investigation, which is connected to this. According to the Premier League, there are multiple others that no one even knows about, publicly. So it's hard to assess. My point is that all I've stated, and I stand by it, if they're guilty of the big breaches that we have seen, then it needs to be a bigger punishment than Everton's, because they would have lost money like Everton, but they've circumvented it by potentially breaking them rules. Jamie here says, speaking of more evidence from last night that Messi can do whatever he wants. No red card again. Everything is so corrupt for him. I haven't even seen
Uruguay won in the end. Darwizi scored.
Yeah, they did. Mike also super chatted here saying another GA for Darwin Hassan, my top striker, Nunez.
Michael, everywhere I go, every YouTube channel I go on, you just super chat $2 to just give me the Darwin GA.
Cheers, Mikey. I appreciate it,
What
brother.
the
Thank you. Thank you for the super chat, my G. Thank you, bruv. Let's do some more of these comments here. Bobby actually said, forget about taking away titles, transfer bans, fines, deductions. Put City in League 2 and watch every player and Pep leave.
Pep Guardiola will be out the door so fast.
Pep
Even
will
if
look, again, City fans, I feel like I'm backing you here, even though you won't like what I'm going to say. If City have cheated, they've cheated Pep. If the owners have broken the rules this badly, they've hurt Pep. Pep should leave. He should leave through protest. He should leave because they will have wasted 7 or 8 years of his life, and he can never get that back. And he's closing in on like all those records could potentially go. The fact he's closing in on Fergie's numbers. Imagine all that goes. Pep, he'll never catch Fergie then. He'll never catch him. And the saddest bit is he's still achieved with that group and done amazing things, but it will go if it's all true. So yeah, listen, I feel sorry for Pep. Everton received a points deduction higher than Arsenal and Man United received for a full pitch brawl in 1990. As a Toffees fan, I'm madder at the penalty.
Big up Daryl, man.
Cheers, Daryl. I don't really know what to make of that, my old mate. But from my point of view, having a punch up, well, you didn't cheat, but yeah, there we go. Off topic, but when do you do a straight facts with a Chelsea rep? We don't actually. I have very little room to do more straight facts because of the amount of games that are on. And I've asked a few Chelsea fans to kind of do it on the regs, but none of it been able to commit to it. But yeah, we might add that at some point in the future, Ash.
December is coming, Ash. There's going to be a game every 2 days, basically.
This year says City already committed to spending over 500 million in the next 12 months on the squad and stadium expansion. I don't believe Khaldoon is losing sleep. It might not be.
I didn't see that anywhere.
I look at it from two ways. Is that our balance with it? They could be losing no sleep because they know they're fine. And if you know you're fine, you're fine. But by the way, in real life, if you've got the money City you've got and you haven't broken any rules or laws, you're fine. You know, if you're poor and you haven't done nothing wrong but you're being accused of it, you still might get in trouble, right? But when you're rich, you're fine. Or there's the other side of it. Pride comes before the fall. There are people in life that are like, I'm fine, I got this, and then it goes west. So it's either for me, it's either one of those two things with the way City are approaching this. They are either crystal clean and can prove it and it's going to be absolutely fine, or they think it's all going to be okay and it could end up in disaster. It's going to go one or two ways. They're either getting no punishment or they're getting screwed. I really do see it being one or the other in this situation. The Hungarian John Joe Shelby was more than 60 million. Who's that?
How dare you, Anton, call someone?
That's not a style.
Have some shit. One of the signings of the summer. We're not going to start this stupid agenda now. Anton, you're such a fraud as well. You're an Arsenal fan. Why are you fighting Soboslai for? Has Terry lagged? I thought you lagged.
No, I was reading something, so I got a message. I want to read it. Guess who plays Everton? Yeah, it's us. It's us, isn't it? It's absolutely us. It's true. It's true, Manny. When I saw that today, that Everton.
My God! I just clocked. It's actually Everton away for you. Like. Away as well at Goodison. You're fucked. You're fully fucked now. You're fully fucked.
Yep.
Hey, enjoy it, Terry. Enjoy the ride, brother.
Yeah, I know. But again, that either goes one or two ways. That we can either deflate them very quickly, score a goal and batter them, or they're going to come out and play like peak Barcelona and just suddenly be world class. Yeah. No, mate, I agree with you. It's going to be what a horrible game to have with what they're currently going through. It's just the worst. If City and Chelsea get convicted, no one will respect what they have done and the show will be over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, listen, nobody will respect it. You're absolutely right. And their own fans won't respect it because it will feel dirty. It will feel tarnished. They won't be able to. Pep knows. I don't know if Pep knows. I don't think most of it hasn't even happened when Pep was there. So, no, I disagree. Terry and Hassam, hypothetically, if City and Barca are found guilty, how does it reflect on Pep's success and greatness?
Definitely affects it. If you're part of an institution that cheated its way to the top, it definitely affects you 100%. We can sit up here and can say Pep is one of the greatest managers of all time. I agree. We can sit up here and say Pep is this, Pep is that, no problem. But the reality is, my guy, I like it does. It will affect the success 100%. The legacy 100%. It will affect it because his biggest people that need to realize something. His biggest flex is actually Barcelona. It's not Manchester City or Bayern. It's Barcelona. That's the one thing that people give him credit for.
Yeah, Ricky, I think I echo what Sam has said and maybe a little more. It would be so unfortunate to Pep if this all turns out to be true, because unless there's evidence that proves it, I don't think he's got anything to do with what Barca may or may have not have done, whatever City may or may not have done. But he would lose, those clubs could lose trophies, medals, credibility. Therefore, he would. So many of his great, all of his trebles, his Champions Leagues, his record-breaking points totals, everything that he kind of is renowned for is at the very least diluted, if not eviscerated. And like genuinely, there's a part of me as a United fan who loves Sir Alex Ferguson that doesn't want anybody to overtake Fergie, that is. But there's also a part of me as a football fan that thinks, imagine you have to, or you're forced to take away the greatness that what Pep is. Now there are arguments that, yeah, but we know Pep still achieved it. True, he did still do it. But at the same time, if someone's done for
the how matters, basically.
Yeah, like the how will matter, and it won't ever be the same again. And I genuinely feel for Pep, and I worry for him because it's almost like he's financially he's fine, but it's almost like his life's work is gone, and it could finish him because it's almost like, would he have the energy to go again? Will he have the energy to go and start winning trophies again? Because so much of what he's done and achieved would be wiped out. He could never catch the greats who already have the 40 to 50 odd trophies, because he's probably too old now to start again. That's 20 years almost wiped off, and barring what he did at Bayern. So yeah, I genuinely for Pep Guardiola, I truly hope that they're not found guilty for him individually. No, I know you don't, but I don't like. I don't like the idea of someone like Pep, who is a god of our sport, suddenly having all of his managerial achievements, or the majority of them, suddenly null and void. However, that's why this needs to be taken seriously, because you're not just dealing with my club and your club feeling hard done by, you're dealing with the legacy of these players as well. And that's why, although it's harsh, that's why the clubs, if they've done this, need to be punished heavily, because you are taking so much away from so many people at the same time. It's a huge thing. And that's why the punishments have to be massive. They really would. They really would. There we go. This here says, my thing with City is they innocence. Why does it gonna take years to know the truth? Normal innocence wants it over fast. The actual reason that I read is that actually getting the level of QCs required there's like a long waiting list. It's not a criminal matter where anyone's lives are at danger. This is just a case of, like, to a lot of these QCs, this isn't important. There's probably a lot more pressing and more important things they have to deal with. This is just, well, the nearest slot we can fit it in is in 2.5 years' time because they're really busy. That's what I believe it is, more so than just anything else. I don't think it's City per se dragging it out. 115 charges aren't separate. There's 5 main charges.
That's cute. What about the other 110? Good luck, Stockport Iniesta. By the way, Foden was in arguments with Mbappe. Now he's in arguments with Saka. So just sit on the floor.
This is Terry. You should do straight facts with subscribers.
Oh, yeah, because that'd go real well. Oh, that's such a great idea, Oral Campbell. Such a great idea, brother. That would go tits up so quick. 30 seconds in. He'd gegenpress one of the fans or something, and it would just be over for them.
Rivals so needed this to cope with City's dominance. But this is the thing, though. What is very interesting to me is that for years, people have accused City and Chelsea of financially doping. and it's both those clubs that are now under this level of investigation. So, and generally in life, I do believe with the saying of "there's no smoke without fire." And Chelsea's one's just so interesting because it isn't speculation. They're the ones reporting themselves. So it's just interesting. Arsenal fan, how dare you? I have 2 Champions Leagues.
My bad, Anton. My bad.
Sorry, Anton. Sorry, mate. Pep not a god if his teams are corrupt. Yes and no. Like, I get you, no, in theory, but he hasn't been he's just been coaching this team. You know, if I'm a coach of a runner and I don't know he's taking steroids and I coach him to be world champion, there's an element of I feel sorry for that coach because that coach thinks I've done everything right. But then I also get your point. If you've built squads or you've paid referees so that you win games and you've built squads that you wouldn't be able to without cheating, then he wouldn't have been able, he wouldn't have made them as good. Maybe a lot of the wins at Barca wouldn't have been wins. Yeah, I do get you, Jamie. I do get you. It's such a hard one. Johnny Mineral, straight facts. Yeah, Johnny Mineral on straight facts would be hilarious. If innocent, why not be open about it? Shady City is what Abs has got to say to us here. The great man once said, more than you believe. Jason here, off topic really, for what we're talking about today, says, I'd like to see VAR used like rugby. The refs ask for VAR to confirm his decision. Other than that, VAR quit. Let the ref do his job with the aid of VAR, not VAR refereeing games and ballsing shit up. It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea, Jason. Off this subject, though, I wanted to ask you, Lee Gunner said on Straight Facts the other day that Victor Osimhen is overrated, not very good. Ivan Toney, clear, basically. Both Chelsea and Arsenal are in for these players. Chelsea in for both, Arsenal in for Ivan Toney. Which of the two, we'll start with Chelsea, which of the two should Chelsea go for, in your opinion?
Here's the thing with the whole situation. With Osimhen, look at this guy making threats. Full fan on the screen is on the list of YouTubers submitted to City for defamation. So Pray City is guilty. I bet he never said allegedly. You're so lifeless, Prodigal. You're so lifeless because of the Sheikh bought Spurs. You be a Spurs fan. Check your WhatsApp, Terry, by the way. Here's the thing with Osimhen. I think in terms of what Arsenal are trying to accomplish, what the Arsenal are trying to do, I think Toney is probably the better option for them. I don't think Toney's clear of Osimhen. I don't think Toney's unbelievably better than Osimhen. I just think Toney, as a football player, as someone who can create for his teammates, as someone who can play for Saka, for Martinelli, for the team, as someone part of the team unit, then 100% Toney makes more sense for Arsenal Football Club. And actually, Osimhen makes more sense for Chelsea. So in terms of like logically, Osimhen makes more sense for Chelsea because Chelsea are so creative and they need someone to put the ball in the back of the net. Now, if they get someone to put the ball in the back of the net, then Osimhen is there to do that for them. With Ivan Toney, I think Ivan Toney is a better footballer. Ivan Toney is better at passing. Ivan Toney is a better dribbler. Ivan Toney is better at getting other people involved, in my opinion. Now, I don't think Osimhen is necessarily a traditional striker who can't do on the football. He can, but if I'm saying for Arsenal as a team, I see Toney fitting them more, and I see Osimhen fitting Chelsea more. So I actually agree with that take. But Toney is not clear of Osimhen. Let's relax now.
Yeah, I don't think Osimhen's overrated. I think he's very good at what he I think he's very, very good at what he does. However, I just prefer Ivan Toney. So I look at it this way, though. With Chelsea, it's whether or not they want to wait. I don't think anyone's getting Osimhen in January. I think you're going to have to wait till the summer. So I think it's one of those things for Chelsea where it's almost a case of, if we want Victor Osimhen, we're probably going to have to wait until the summer. If you buy Toney in January, I don't think you get Osimhen in the summer because I don't think there's room in anyone's squad to have both of them because they're both starting number 9s. And I think Arsenal, look, they need another midfielder. Arsenal have got to go big in January. I really do think so. There's a few more super chats here that says, I meant there are 5 main issues City don't need to disprove 115 separate. Yeah, no, I hear you on that. Sam, you will see Foden up close and personal next week. Karma.
He
This
does well
is,
against us as well.
by the way, the Paul fan on the screen is
I
on the
just
list of
responded to
YouTubers
this fraud.
submitted to see. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, look, an
I
opinion.
doubt Sheikh Mansour is out here watching me. Like,
As well. Also, I don't know what a UK-based company can do to a man sitting in Jordan. I don't know the laws on that. I think he's going to be absolutely fine. Plus, expressing an opinion based on what you've seen in the media, I don't think there's any defamation in there. If I'm being honest with you, I really don't think there is.
All the grounds and all the country for defamation, because you've never heard you bought it all. You've never heard that song sang in the terraces. Come on, man. You bought it all.
And I'm also, someone just sent me this link here. It says, is an opinion defamation in the UK? It says the defense of an honest opinion is contained in Section 3 of the Defamation Act 2013. It says to succeed, the defendant must show that the defamation statement is a statement of opinion and not a statement of fact. So I think you're giving an opinion. I'm definitely giving an opinion. I'm just stating that now in case I'm on that list as well. Whoa, there we go. Look, there's another super chat here that says you won't allow officers in your house with dodgy evidence. Let's go to court and settle it. But the Premier League is scared because they will be battered.
Oh,
maybe.
So big up.
Potentially. Could be right. Look, Sam, great conversation today. I really enjoyed it. Viewers, thank you all for your input, your super chats. Please hit the like button before you leave. Please make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell notification as well. Until next time, people. Also, someone here says you can't defame a non-human entity. Oh, there we go. I didn't know that either. Yeah, I don't think there's no defamation here. It just is what it is. I'm only
defame Manchester City, the football club. That's different.
Yeah. Until next time, people, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.